My name's Eddie Winters. You're tuned into the Rock and Roll Coup d'etat. Jeremy Wheat sitting in the hot seat. Jeremy, we've been talking about it all morning long. Mm-hmm. We've got one of the most legendary drummers ever, 20th century recording music, and I'm excited and pleased to welcome onto the program Mr. Hal Blaine. Hal, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, and I was really enjoying listening to my bass drum.
Oh, yeah. Well-tuned.
Well-tuned, well-timed bass drum brought us all together.
That happened to be my very first Grammy-winning record of the year.
Ooh, ah.
Is that right?
And I recently had my number 8.
8 of them?
I had 6 in a row.
Gosh.
Wow.
Amazing. I mean, I've had hundreds of Grammy winners.
Right.
Yeah.
But record of the year, and I thought it was, finally it's over with. I had 7 that I'm very happy with.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Most
I
people would
just
be
got
happy.
my 8th with Glenn Campbell with
we were just talking
I'm
about
Not Gonna Miss You or whatever it is.
Right.
Last week.
His finals release.
Exactly.
Wow. Congratulations, by the way. I mean, it's crazy to think, you've been doing this for many, many, many years, and there is...
Well, I started in 57.
Is that 57? Is that right?
It's amazing. I was with a kid by the name of Tommy Sands, one of the very first
Heard of him.
teenage idols.
Right. Wow, and of course, I mean, obviously, you've been playing. We were talking about the recent film that came out. The Wrecking Crew.
Right.
Yep.
Right, of course.
Right.
Denny's film.
Yeah, and we had Denny on the program, and we were we were
great.
talking about just the his father playing with you in the studios in Hollywood and playing all of this wonderful music. How has been the reception for the movie for you personally?
Well, I've gotten a million calls from different people. I've been doing radio interviews for the last couple of weeks, one after another, after another, after another.
Right.
And I just finished an interview with a young man from Minnesota whose name was Craig something. And I thought I was talking to Eddie of Eddie and Jeremy.
Oh, man.
Right.
It's a common mistake.
Right.
I was completely mixed up.
Well, here you are, and we're happy to have you. And the Wrecking Crew film has been getting such rave reviews, and
well, Denny did such a great job, and he's been working almost 20 years on this film, and we're all thrilled that it's finally released and is doing very well. We had a major day in Hollywood just the other day. I think it was on the 16th or 17th.
right.
We were at Amoeba Records.
Oh, right.
In L.A.
And Chuck, what's his name? Weinstein, I think. It's Weinstein, the owner.
Mark Weinstein.
Or Mark Weinstein.
Right.
Yeah, nice man. Took me to lunch.
Oh.
This was the official release of the DVDs and the Blu-rays, etc.
Right.
And we must have signed at least 500 autographs.
Wow.
They were lined up for blocks in Hollywood.
And I'll bet knowing you, that was at least 200 drummers in that line.
It may have been.
At least 200, 250.
There were a few. I know that my good buddy Lee Sklar, the great bass player, was standing in line.
Is that right?
He can play drums
And
on
I
that
said,
bass.
"You dummy, why didn't you come to the front of the line and talk to somebody?" He didn't have to. No, he waited in line like everybody.
He's a gent.
That's incredible, and I mean the film is such a great representation, of the story of the Wrecking Crew, and is it true that you kind of put the name the Wrecking Crew, kind of put that out there for people, because you guys didn't really have a name for that group at the time, but it kind of turned into that.
Well, I started calling us the Wrecking Crew. It started. We were on a Disney film.
Right.
We were nightclub guys that got lucky in records and movies and television, We were doing everybody in the world. People were coming here from all over the world, producers and artists.
Right.
I found out recently that I did work with Fats Domino.
You weren't
I never
aware of
knew
it?
that. I mean, it's an amazing story, but the point is that we were working, and that movie and I had been working as an actor, and I worked for Walt Disney, and we happened to be working at Disney Studios on a new movie. And it was about a little Volkswagen car, and I think it was called Herbie the Car.
Right.
And I had also been working with Buddy Hackett, the comedian.
Of course. Wow.
Before anyone ever heard of Buddy Hackett. And I remember Buddy came to me and said, Hal, I got a call. I'm going to be in the movies. I mean, it was really funny, and he was a very funny guy.
Wow.
Anyway, the point is, this band leader, Bruner, I think his name was Bruner,
Mm-hmm.
he started talking down to us. He said, we brought you fellas in, and they had just released about a 70-piece orchestra out of the music stage. And he said, we brought you in because we're working on this movie, and there's a little scene where some monkeys get out of a car, and they run all over the town, and we want some of your rock and roll.
Right.
Okay.
As if we didn't know what he was talking about. And we're saying, yeah, mm-hmm.
Mm.
And he said, we're going to play a click track, and don't let it scare you. You got music in front of you. I'm shortening the story.
Right.
And so the point is that when we finished, when they hit the click track, we played it perfectly. And it was just a rehearsal. And this composer wanted to pull his hair out. He said, why did I make that? It was perfect. It was just what we wanted. And he said, how did you guys do that? And Tommy Tedesco, in his own little gorgeous way, stood up and he said, like a little kid sucking his thumb, he said, we practice a lot during the day. That became one of our by phrases for years and years and years when we did something amazing, on records, obviously, or movies.
These days, we would call that a stealth bag. It's when the guy's getting put down, doesn't even know it. He's not even aware.
It was really funny because obviously we became part of the Disney organization. I mean, we were doing a lot of work for Walt Disney.
Right.
I remember doing one of the great movies was, I played the drums.
Did you do Jungle Book?
Pete's Dragon.
Oh, Pete's Dragon.
Oh, Pete's Dragon, right.
It was a kind of a cute movie, and I remember I got to meet Mickey Rooney, who loved drums.
Wow.
Oh, he was a drummer himself, sort of.
Yeah, we used to hang out a little bit. Anyway, the point is that we were doing everybody that came to Hollywood, the Wrecking Crew. And so when I used to call my secretary, and instead of giving her individual names, she knew the 7 or 8 guys that were our original guys. And then if we had to add more people, more guitars, whatever, and she would do all the calls. We never had to make calls. And so as we were leaving the studio one day, as we were leaving that studio where some of the musicians hung around to hear what this rock and roll was all about, this filthy, nasty music, I heard one of the guys, and we were in Levi's and T-shirts.
Right.
And all of these, wonderful established musicians for all these years were classically trained. I mean, these are the guys that are doing all the great MGM movies and 20th, Warner Brothers. They had no idea who we were because here we were in Levi's.
Sure.
And so all of a sudden, I hear one of the guys saying, these kids are going to wreck the business after they heard what we did. So that was the situation.
That's hence the name, the Wrecking Crew, and
so I started calling us the Wrecking Crew. I told my secretary Arlen that we're going to be known as the Wrecking Crew, and so I never had to give her names anymore. I said, just call the Wrecking Crew. We're going to do a so and so and so and so.
That's and it's amazing the impact that this the group of musicians had. Obviously, the go-to musicians in L.A. I recently saw there's a new movie about Brian Wilson called Love and Mercy. And
I worked on it.
Did you work on that? Because they
Well, I
represent
did all the Beach Boys records.
right,
Yeah.
of course. And this film comes out, and it's depicting you guys in the studio.
Oh,
and
I know. The director, I had long talks with the director, and a very nice man. I can't think of his name now. They sent me beautiful baskets of stuff from New York.
Oh, wow.
Brian is a very dear friend. I just got an email from Brian.
Oh, is that right?
Thanking me I sent him an email for his birthday. His birthday was last Saturday or Sunday. I
Right.
don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, just a couple of days ago. And
Yeah, well, I go back with Brian from the very beginnings.
of course. And you played on obviously all the biggest Beach Boys records.
All their stuff.
Yeah.
All the stuff we did.
And it's so interesting. I was going to ask first, being depicted in a film, did you ever think in your years of recording that you'd ever see somebody playing you?
I never did, really. I really never did. I worked as an actor.
Right.
I worked at 20th. I worked at Fox. I worked at Warner Brothers, doing little bits and shticklach, as we call them.
Right.
And it was an amazing time. And I never thought about. I was always first and foremost a musician.
Sure.
And I used to call myself a method musician because I worked with all these great Yul Brynner and all these wonderful stars.
Right.
Who were method actors. They had to know, what is my motivation? Well, I found myself doing the same thing. I never recorded a song without first hearing it. I wanted to know, what is my motivation?
Sure.
And that's one of the first things when I do a clinic. I ask all these people in the audience, hundreds of people, and I say, can anyone tell me what is a song? And a few people raise their hand. Well, it's a love song, it's a this, a song is a story.
Right.
And I can't just sit down and play without knowing what the story is, because I'm an accompanist.
Right.
And so it's amazing, because I go through that whole thing. I worked, when I think of San Francisco all the time, I think of Marin.
Of course.
I spent all the time I spent with David Grisman up there.
Wow.
And stuff with from the dead, Jerry Garcia.
Oh, yeah, Jerry, right.
I go back a long, long time. People don't realize I just turned 86 years old.
Wow. You look and still and sound great too.
You don't look it.
The actor that
You don't look
played
it on the
me.
radio.
Oh, well, that's all the years. Listen, I just spent the last 2 weeks talking to radio stations all over the world
Right.
about the movie. And the only thing I have to say about the movie that really pisses me off, excuse my French,
Well, let's hear it. Let's
go
hear
for
it.
and that is Carol Kaye,
Oh,
who never
yeah.
should have been in the goddamn movie with us,
Really?
and who's out there now telling the world there never was a wrecking crew,
Huh.
that Hal Blaine wrote a book called The Wrecking Crew, and he was just trying to push his own book. She forgets I'm in a fifth printing. They're
Right.
doing a fifth printing of my book right now.
Right.
Man.
Big deal. You don't make any money on books.
No.
Unless you're selling multi-millions, and get on a #1 New York Times list or something. She's just absolutely ridiculous. She's become an absolute saboteur.
Right.
Oh, man.
I read a lot about this with Carol. Obviously she took part in the film, and then at some point kind of did a 180 here, and
Completely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, completely nuts.
that must come to a complete shock to you to have just
It's a
out of the
shock
blue.
to all of us. She's a guitar player.
Right.
Phil Spector wanted to give her a break because she had a couple of kids, just as he did with Sonny Bono.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Phil was a sweetheart of a guy, and Carol was part of these sometimes 7 guitars sitting there.
Right.
She was never a part of the wrecking crew. she was augmented sometimes, and we'd call her if there were 3, 4, 5 other guitar players. But she was never, and all of a sudden she started fooling around with the bass fiddle. And it wasn't the bass at first, it was that other instrument.
Fender bass.
God, I can't think of the name of it now.
Is it the baritone guitar?
It's sort of like, it's a 4-string bass.
Fender bass.
But no, it's not the Fender. No. It's a very a soprano-ish type.
Huh.
It's between a stand-up bass and a Fender.
Right.
God, I just lost the name of
I think
it.
that might be the.
Anyway, unfortunately, the guy that did all that Fender work was Ray Pullman.
Of course.
Yeah, the
right.
great Ray Pullman.
One of the great arrangers, one of the great bass players. And Carol Kaye has the nerve to take all those credits
Right.
and sue people. She has sued Guitar Player magazine, Bass Player magazine. She wants to be known as the first lady of the bass,
Right.
and she is not, and never was. Bass players laugh at her.
The first lady of litigating the bass.
She's the most litigious person on the planet.
That's like the worst
And the
hobby to
courts
have.
got sick of her. The courts got very sick of her. She pulled some things with Earl Palmer, the great drummer.
Oh,
Right.
Man, yeah.
Earl's widow, Jolene, is a very dear friend of mine, very nice lady. And when Earl died penniless,
Right.
unfortunately. And, of course, we all found out, we all knew that. And his widow, Jolene, had savings. She was paying all these medical bills and on and on and on. Carol Kaye comes along. Now, Earl had something like 8 children.
Wow.
And she tells all these children, "Oh, Earl left millions for you. They're just not telling you."
What?
Jeez.
And that created you have no idea what it created for Jolene.
Right.
Man.
This poor lady who knocked her brains out the last 5 years that Earl was laying in a bed that she was paying for,
Right.
a hospital bed, and in the home. It was her home, right here in Beaumont. Banning, rather. I beg your pardon.
Right. Right.
You have no idea what Carol has pulled and what she's done, and she's become the laughing stock. And all the great bass players, they laugh about her. They don't even want to know her. Anyway, I'll get off of the subject.
But
She had the nerve to come along and say, "There never was a wrecking crew. We were known as the Clique."
right.
Hogwash.
Well, she was known as the Clique in her brain, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
I don't think it ever clicked, though.
Even Brian Wilson refers to you guys now as for years as the Wrecking Crew.
Well, Brian knew that.
Yeah. It's
And, we talked to Brian about that. He said, well, yeah, and he said, like Denny, she's a woman, she's got children, we got to help her out. Fine, that's all well and good, but don't turn around and then try to stab us in the back.
Sure. It just sours the whole experience, especially now with the film out and that kind of.
Well, let me tell you a quick story. When
Sure.
Denny told me that Carol was going to be part of this first little round table, there were just 4 of us: Tommy Tedesco, myself, Plas Johnson, the
Right.
great saxophone player, and
Carol, right?
and Carol. And I said, "Why is Carol with us? She's not a part of us." "Well, she's a girl. She has a couple kids, and we want to help her." This is 20 years ago.
Right.
I said, "Denny, I'll tell you something right now. I have nothing against Carol, but any question you ask any of us, she's going to answer." And that's exactly what he hates himself to this day, because it took forever for him and his editor
Right.
to take out so much of her talk. It was all BS. That's
Right.
all there is to it. She's just a terrible liar. She was, when I was, oh God, don't get me started. When I was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
Right.
along with the great bass player from from Detroit. Oh God, I just lost his
Jamerson.
name.
James
James
Jamerson.
Jamerson, of course.
Right.
When Carol Kaye found out it was James Jamerson, she went to her email list and sent everyone letters and told them they should write to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that it should be her because she did all of the Motown records.
I've heard her say that.
Wow.
It's
Now
such
she's
baloney.
nuts.
It's such
She's
baloney.
totally nuts.
I'm going to have to back you up 110% on this, Hal.
Well, everybody in the business knows she's made a fool of herself.
Jeepers.
Anyway, that's our Carol.
Right.
There's nothing you can do about it. She's nuts.
Well,
period.
And like I said before, it's a shame because we're celebrating, this work, and it is a shame that somebody there is kind of pulling these, punches and putting that out there, and obviously, and we want to celebrate, your contribution, to American, pop culture and rock and roll, and it's, obviously you've played with. Everybody, obviously, from Brian Wilson to Elvis, playing on his tracks, and of course the
Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra,
Yeah.
the Wall of Sound. I mean, the list goes on.
You know that Phil in prison right now.
Right.
He's working on a new band called the Wall of Sound, but they call it the Prison Wall of
Oh, wow.
Sound.
Yeah. The bars of sound.
Right.
Hey, that's a good one. I like that. The bars of sound. Anyway, that's Phil, and we all know that he did not murder this woman. He had the gun, and it killed her, but he did not intend murdering her. This was his... little people, for some reason, and Phil was a very little guy, he had that Napoleonic thing
Sure.
that he was the big man on the campus, and that's all there was to it. And he pulled guns on a lot of people. Over 30 years, I never saw a gun. The L.A. detectives were here with me for 3 hours on my patio, recording me, and I had to convince them I never, ever saw a gun.
Wow.
All the talk of the Ramones saying, well, he pulled a gun on us, they're going to kill you if you don't do it my way. Even the Ramone, the poor guy that lived, one of the Ramones said that was all BS.
Right.
They never saw a gun. There's so many people like that. And I know for a fact, 33 years.
Right.
I never saw a gun. And Phil brought me to his castle 1,000,000 times to do comedy because I have a lot of jokes.
Sure. Oh, yes.
He had special luncheons with attorneys, with various, showbiz people. And I was always invited because I always came up with some great classic jokes for him. Because he loved comedy. Lenny Bruce was a friend of mine.
Wow.
Comedy was part of my life, and my life has been one big joke.
You ever back up a comic, Hal, in a kind of like burlesque type of way? You ever do that early in your career?
Well, let's put it this way. I started with Don Rickles before anyone ever heard of him.
Wow.
I was working with Buddy Hackett when nobody ever heard of him. I worked with my dear friend that I loved tremendously was George Burns.
Yes, sir.
I've worked with so many comedians I can't tell you. I have pictures and pictures and pictures of the people that I worked with. A lot of the people in those days, everybody gave everybody 8x10s.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Glossies.
I worked with so many comics. That's why there's hardly a joke I haven't heard
Right.
or a version of.
But it's a charmed life. Laughing keeps you young.
So had you not have picked up the drums, do you think you would have gone deeper into the comedy world?
There's no telling. I just really don't know because the drums put me sitting behind the drums. I learned. I was with the Steve Allen Band,
right?
With Terry Gibbs, and we were doing that Sunday night comedy special, and Steve brought me in one day, and they put me on a big, beautiful set of drums and a gold tuxedo, and all I did was bada booms.
Right.
Rim shots.
They did a joke. Is one of the funniest things I was ever involved with Steve. They did a prickly heat telethon.
Whoa.
The way Jerry Lewis does the
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
telethon. It was one of the funniest things I ever saw in my life. And all I did was bada boom after jokes,
Oh, man.
after
Right.
joke, after joke. Talk about great fun.
What a job.
And I've talked to Steve about that many times. May he rest in peace.
Right. Oh,
Gotta see
such
if
a
we can find that clip later.
such a-
Prickly heat.
right.
Oh, man, I hope you can. It's called the Prickly Heat Telethon.
Oh, that's great. You know, Hal, I know that you're definitely pressed for time. I would love to get you back on the program at some time in the future. Maybe team up with your old friend Joe Osborne and maybe get you both on here and have a couple laughs.
Anytime, I'm happy to do that, man. Joe is one of the sweethearts of the world.
We feel the
I'll
same
tell
way.
you a quick story.
Oh, yeah.
You
Sure,
got a
go for
second?
it. Yeah, you got it.
I get a call one day from a reporter in Hollywood. He said, "I'm coming out to do an interview with Carol Kaye, and she seems to live near you. Would it be possible to talk to you after Carol?" I said, "Sure, come on by." So this was like on a Saturday, and he was going to see Carol at around 12 o'clock. He was going to see me about 1:30. Well, about 10 minutes after 12, he's knocking at my door. I said, "Hey, man, come on in." "What happened? I thought you were doing Carol." He said, "She threw me out." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, my first question to her was, "Miss Kaye, can you tell me if any of the bass players that you fashioned yourself and learned from, etc.?" And she said, "No, I never learned from anybody." And he said, and the guy said, "Well, I was under the impression that Joe Osborne had been the bass player on so much of it." "I hate Joe Osborne. He stole everything I ever did. And get out of my house. I'm not talking to you."
Wow.
Joe Osborne, for Christ's sake, was with. Excuse me.
No, go
Joe
for it.
Osborne, for crying out loud,
For the love of Mike.
was with Ricky Nelson in the 50s
Right, of course.
playing rock and roll.
Yep.
Anyway, don't get me started.
Oh, yeah, we loved it. We talked to Joe last week.
Yeah, we
He's the greatest, man.
The best.
Joe.
The best.
And I called when we did the movie, Glenn's movie,
Can't wait to see that.
with the director. Make sure I'm not mixing up. Yeah, it was Glenn Campbell's movie.
Yes,
Oh,
right.
It's radio. We'll just
The
punch
Mr.
it in, Hal.
James Keach.
Right.
Oh.
What we did was we went out to the studio where we did so much of the stuff, East West Studios in Hollywood. They drove me in a beautiful limousine Cadillac,
Nice.
which they do because I live out in the desert. And we did all these individual close-ups and I guess the people were from Warner Brothers, although I forget the name of the company now that did Magnolia. No, not Magnolia. I forget, whoever the company was. And Glenn sat there smiling. He was happy. Couldn't have been happier. Didn't know who we were or anything about it.
Right.
And the director said, James Keach said, "Hal, do you think we could get a couple of the guys that used to work with Glenn?" And I said, "I know that Joe Osborne is in town. I can grab him instantly because he lives in Louisiana.
Right.
I can get Don Randy here in 15 minutes." They said, "Please." I called the guys. They came in. We had a quick reunion. Glenn sang us the song. We recorded it.
Wow.
There were 1 million cameras and microphones. They did everything we did was put on film or tape, whatever they were using.
Sure.
It was all digital. And I remember that James Keach's wife, the beautiful English actress, oh God,
Yeah, what's her name? Jane Seymour.
Jane Seymour, exactly.
That's why I'm the sidekick,
She
Hal.
was a sweetheart because I met her beautiful sister, just a gorgeous lady.
Right.
Anyway,
Oh,
it
there's
was
more at home.
quite a day to remember.
I can
And
imagine.
of course, Glenn sang great. He played great. We all did interviews. They did close-ups of my hands, my sticks, and on and on and on and on, which we thought were going to be in the movie. I haven't seen the movie yet, but evidently they're not in the movie. I know that it's going to be shown next. It's either Saturday or Sunday on CNN.
Right. Apparently your hands asked for a separate royalty payment.
Anyway, the point is, we did the song, and like any other song, I've told people for years, look, we were just working guys. We were no different than the guy putting the doors on refrigerators, so to speak.
Come on.
We did our job. We took our money when we went home. If it wasn't a hit, we didn't ask for the money back.
Sure.
I mean, it was a job. We loved what we were doing. We loved playing, and that was our specialty.
Yeah.
Maytag door hanger, Hal Blaine.
We saved them fortunes in rehearsals.
Right.
So that's exactly why we were there. So, people like Glenn and myself and Tedesco and Laura Ritz, Ray Pullman.
Sure, Don Brandy.
These guys, I mean, they were the greatest. And we were doing demos. These demos became masters. And I know I personally did something like 130 songs, single recordings with Andy Williams.
Wow. Just
Andy Williams. It goes on and on. Johnny Mathis, Sinatra. Talking about Sinatra, we're talking about Phil Spector.
Sure.
We did Be My Baby.
Of course.
Boom, 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 bang, boom.
Right.
Boom, boom, bang, be my... When I did Strangers in the Night, I did the identical same beat, but very quietly. Strangers in the night, boom.
Right.
Ba, 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 boom. You can hear me doing it. I mean, it's...
And that beat changed Brian Wilson's life. I mean, that's...
I mean, everybody says that particular song really was a killer.
Yeah. Oh, still is. Still is.
So, anyway, but that's the story of the Wrecking Crew. We were just guys working, playing. We loved what we were doing. Because the guys came out when we were inducted into the Nashville Musicians Hall of Fame.
Right. Ooh.
I had so many guys call me violinists, bass players, different people. Hey, man, I thought I was part of the Wrecking Crew. Well, you were, man, but you weren't the nucleus.
Right.
They were just inducting 6 of us or 7 of us in Nashville.
Wow.
The same way with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There was just a few of us that were taken into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they never took sidemen.
Sure.
And when the first sidemen thing came up for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we would happen to be there. I mean, that was it.
Yeah, a no-brainer. I mean, you've got to include it. I mean, you've been on what they say estimates of 6,000 tracks.
That's right, almost 6,000.
It's impossible to inventory them all.
Yeah, I mean, that's a staggering.
I have it all on tape. I mean, I have a discography that I recently finished up with 5,600 songs.
Holy cow.
What do you think is the biggest number of sessions you did in a day, Hal?
7.
Oh, and those are 2-hour sessions, right?
3-hour sessions.
3-hour sessions. You
but
did
let
7
me
of
explain
those.
something. A lot of times, for an example, if we were doing, Johnny Rivers.
Sure.
Okay, Secret Agent.
We were at Western Studio 3. A producer from next door would come in, wave at me, and wave that he's got to talk to me. As soon as we took a 5-minute break, I'd go out to see what this guy wanted. He'd say, we need you on a tambourine overdub, quick, run in and do it.
Okay.
I would run in. That was another session. They put me on the contract.
Wow.
All right. So
that
even
happens in commercials. They're always run an hour. I would run in between a date across the hallway and do a commercial in 10 minutes.
Okay.
And the commercial that we did, it only lasted an hour for the band.
Sure.
But that 60-second commercial was cut up into as you know, a 45, a 50,
Sure.
a 40, a 30, a 20, a 15, a 10, and sometimes a 5.
Right.
Alabama Power and Power, Gas and Power, whatever it was. I got checks every 13 weeks for something like 25 years.
Wow.
From Alabama Gas and Power. Because I was a guy doing all these commercials in L.A., working for Don Pystrup, who was a Bay Area guy.
Right.
One of the great arrangers in the world. Owns Bellstown Studios in Hollywood. I mean, you catch on those things every once in a while. I did a record with Nancy Sinatra called "These Boots Are Made for Walking."
Of course.
I get a call from Goodyear Rubber. We have a new product called Boots. We want the band of the guys that did the Boots Are Made for Walking with Nancy Sinatra. I said, okay. We did their new product called Wide Boots. That's what it was.
Uh-huh.
I became the Goodyear drummer.
Wow.
Don Pystrup was the arranger for Goodyear, or Bob Thompson, I beg your pardon, was the arranger for Goodyear. I started working for Bob Thompson. I didn't know Bob. All of a sudden, I'm doing hundreds of commercials.
Wow.
That led to a guy calling me by the name of Don Pystrup. He said, I want you to do some work we're going to do, and I'd love to have you. And I said, okay, great. He hired me for the couple hours. And so I walk in, and we're doing this thing, and we realized Don's wife comes in. She was the star of the Wide Boots for Goodyear.
Wow.
On the film. Beautiful lady, dancer.
He fell in love with her boots first.
The gal was dancing like on a giant black and white checkerboard.
Right.
And it was a Goodyear Wide Boots. Well, it's amazing how these things happen. I mean, one thing leads to another.
Exactly.
And it was just the luck of the Jew, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, and it's provided. I mean, we asked Joe Osborne last week when we were speaking with him. He said he never planned anything, and it all just kind of fell into place. One thing led to another, and it seems like it's such a beautiful journey that you go on. There's ups, there's downs, but nonetheless.
I'm telling you, when I used to do the Ozzie and Harriet show once in a while,
Sure.
Joe Osborne, I would see him on film. I didn't know who he was. And all of a sudden, it was Joe, I believe, that, in fact, I just mentioned Johnny Rivers. I think Johnny Rivers needed a drummer. Joe called me. We started working the Whiskey A Go-Go.
Right.
That kind of stuff, live stuff. I remember Johnny Rivers' first major #1 was a song I did with him called The Poor Side of Town.
Right.
Great record. Very, very simple, very, I just did my job. That led to, I can't tell you how many jobs of people saying, that little thing you do,
right,
with the hi-hat.
Ooh.
How do you do that? I said, I heard a drummer in England do that, and it just stuck. I liked it, and I used to do it for Lou Adler. And he'd say, don't do that noise thing. It sounds like white noise or something. Don't do that, Hal. Okay, fine. And then when I was working with Johnny Rivers, I happened to do it on Poor Side of Town. Johnny said, I love that thing, whatever it is. Keep it up. And that became, now every producer that called me said, I want you to do that thing that you were doing on the Johnny Rivers song.
That sounds right.
Lou Adler had to eat his words.
And we called it... there was a name we used for it. I forget what we called it now. Anyway, it was just a hi-hat, open and close cymbal.
Right. Right.
That's all it was.
But
you never know how those things are going to happen.
Right.
They just happen.
Gosh, I was going to say, I know we're basically running out of time, and I don't want to make you late for your next.
Exactly. I got about 3 minutes here. My driver's going to be here, and I'm heading to my X-ray.
You got it.
I hope my last X-ray. My arm is out of the cast. I've been doing my physical therapy, and my arm is back to normal. Thank God.
Did you have obviously you probably weren't doing much drumming with the arm the way it was. Are you looking?
3 months I was out right here in bed, and in 2 different hospitals with a broken arm, with stitches you wouldn't believe. I
Jeez.
laid in the bathroom for 2.5 days before they found me.
Wow.
I thought I died.
Oh my gosh! Wow, what
It's a pretty amazing story. Yeah.
Next time, call us right away, Hal. We'll be over.
we'll get you on that. Oh my gosh! Well, Hal, I'm glad that you're recovering and have almost back to 100%. It is. It's just such a pleasure having you on and getting to talk and share these stories. And as we were saying before, we'd love to get you back on, maybe get you on with Joe and have a good time kind of hashing out some of these old tales and talking about some of these great dates that you recorded
And
on.
I can't tell you. I used to do a lot of records with a couple kids called Chad and Jeremy.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
sure.
And that was pretty far out. I was just going to say, Eddie, maybe you should be called Chad. I don't know.
Yeah, let's work on that, Eddie.
I would like that. Gotta get my pipes up in order.
I like the way this Blaine kid thinks.
Right.
Hey, listen, guys, it's really a pleasure. Call anytime. I'm happy to talk to you.
You got it,
Pleasure's
Hal.
ours, Hal.
Thank you so much, Hal. And you take care of yourself. We'll talk to you
And
soon.
listen, my love goes out to everybody in the Bay Area because I love those people.
Thank you so much. We'll pass on the word, baby.
It is reciprocated.
We'll talk to you soon.
You got it. Take care, Hal Blaine. Thank you
Okay,
so
you
much.
too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Who ordered the legend?